Hi, I'm Dino Trombitas. I know for a fact that there is a Radio Hall of Fame, and no, I'm not vying to be in it. I'm going to wait for the Hall of Shame. But tonight's guest, in my opinion, should be in the Radio Hall of Fame. Tonight, newscaster extraordinaire and so much more, Clark Donley on Whiskey Business.
Woo! Yeah! Woo! Finally.
Welcome to Whiskey Business, the podcast not so much about whiskey as it is one with whiskey. And in just a little bit, one of my most favorite people on the planet and somebody who I've probably known and worked with longer than I have with any of you, Clark Donley, who was our news and information on Sunny 95 for years, is joining us as he is leaving this fair city and moving on to other new adventures. So we thought it would be appropriate, almost bookended, if you will, because he was one of our very first podcasts when we were doing them at the Sunny 95 studios. Still one of my favorites.
Early on.
Great conversation.
He was like the first guest we could just be like, just let him go. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah, he does exactly. It was a great conversation about where news was at that particular time when we were doing the podcast of like 7 years ago, as opposed to where it was and where it came from. And we might kind of revisit that even a little bit because things have dramatically changed in that world in the last 7 years since Clark and I did that podcast. And we're drinking in honor of Clark Donley, where we've stepped away from the bourbons and whatnot. Every once in a while, we have scotch on the show, not often enough, but Clark is a scotch lover at heart. So the guest bottle tonight is the Johnny Walker Double Black, because Donley is double that good. Because that's not the reason. This is Chip. You were asking me about the Double Black. This is the sibling to Johnny Walker Black. No age statement. Scotch is not required to have an age statement per se, but the powers that be say that in order for it to be good Scotch whiskey, and this is a blended one, there's an age statement of at least 3 years plus, and I'm pretty sure that the good folks at Johnny Walker
wouldn't lie to us.
They wouldn't lie to us.
Yeah.
But
maybe we can get into this later. But the colors, the red, the blue, the black, like what's the cream of the cream? Which is the best?
Which the Johnny Walkers?
Yeah.
Supposedly the blue.
Ooh.
It is that's yours, Chip, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna pour a little bit.
Blue.
I'm gonna pour a little bit for Donley because I don't know. I can recall a time when Donley and I, where that little sip would have insulted him. And
okay.
I will say now that we've moved on from the radio business, we don't have to be done
but
by
now we're
5
mature,
PM.
grown-up adults, as opposed to when we were supposed to be mature, grown-up adults.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
It smells real fruity.
This one's this one's got a little more fruit in it, and it's also for those of you who enjoy a peatier Scotch. It's a little peatier than some of the other regular Johnny Walker Black.
Is it wrong that I expected when it came out of the bottle for it to be black in color?
Yes, that is
that
completely,
wrong
absolutely
of
wrong.
me?
Yeah,
Wow.
every step of the way.
This is very sweet, and I can definitely taste the peat in this.
You had the peat in it? Yeah. It's a little fruitier, a little nicer, but hey, it's good. It retails anywhere. On a good day, you could find it for $40, but
that's
on an
not bad.
average day, about $47.99, and
good.
readily available wherever you purchase
Under $50. It's always a plus.
Yeah, one of our favorite things. We want to find out. Okay, a couple other things I want to mention. You guys probably did not realize it, but today is International Podcast Day as we are recording. As we speak. September 30th,
Really?
International Podcast Day. So we celebrate and say hello to all our podcast
Did you get us
brethren
presents?
out there.
No presents?
No presents
No.
for International Podcast Day.
We got Gatto's Pizza.
We did get Gatto's
Gotta
Pizza.
get
Thank you.
Gatto's.
That's our present. That's our present. And now we're all saying Gatto's.
Gatto's.
Thank you.
It's supposed to be
Gotta
said.
get Gatto's.
And so
Gotta get
they're
a
our
Gatto.
sponsor tonight, right?
Yes,
Gatto's
they are.
Pizza?
They are our unofficial
In Clintonville.
pizza sponsor.
From Italy.
Yeah.
The Johnny Walker Double Black could not be our sponsor, although they could be if they wanted
Though
to.
this was a gift. Yes. This was a gift. I will say that. And I was waiting for a special occasion to crack it. Boxer from my 93.3 got me this.
There you go.
Yeah. And when I popped over on his show for a little visit after the parting of ways what I like to call the parting of
that
ways
what you call it?
at that other station. Speaking of other stations and other shows, how about that for a bad segue? Our Halloween show.
Yeah.
October the 16th with a live audience. Once again, Hansberry's favorite show of the year. This year at Echo Spirits.
Yeah.
Yes.
The bar at
Down
Echo.
Grandview.
Yeah.
The bar at
In
Echo.
Grandview.
Yeah, we'll be in Grandview. We'll be chatting with Joe and Nikhil, and also finding how spookily our bourbon is coming along.
That's what I'm excited
Yeah,
about. Everybody who buys a ticket, it's $20. We got links everywhere. You're going to get a tasting flight, and one of them, those tastes, is going to be our whiskey, the one that we've been talking about.
Yeah,
That's,
Are we going to tell them if it's ours?
But be gentle, because this is our whiskey's not done. This is only
No.
9 months into a 2.5
Correct.
year process.
so right. It's more of a see how it
See how the
goes.
baby's
Right.
see how the baby's doing.
Yeah.
It's
and
a
there-
checkup.
It's
It's a
three
checkup.
other
Sonogram.
expressions.
It's a checkup.
Yeah, it's our sonogram of the whiskey. Little taste.
It's a,
just a
it's
bit.
a, yeah,
Better
it's
watch
a-
out. It's Ohio, so 9 months, you know.
Yeah,
Everything's good.
9 month check. It's a
9
9 month
months.
checkup.
We-
9
what
month
we want.
checkup. It's our salsagram. It's a salsagram. But I'd be curious to see how it's coming along. It has nice high rye content. It's a 4-grain whiskey, and with one of those grains being a blue corn, as you recall.
It's going to be real
right.
funky.
Some rye and
Some
all
rye
kinds of stuff,
and
yeah.
barley, and I'm
So
excited
they make
about it.
5 grain, right? 4 grain.
4 grain. And still on the barrel, they still have it jokingly entitled Ink and Cigarettes, which while I love the concept,
It doesn't taste
Ink
anything
and
like it.
cigarettes draws up in the mind as far as the name of the bottle. Let's hope it doesn't taste like
Right. Okay. We don't want it
They
to.
might sell the bottle. I don't know.
that. They might. It'd be a fun bottle it'd be a fun label.
Yeah.
Ink and Cigarettes. Somebody with artistic.
It's got to have the blood red dripping.
Hansberry tickets or not? If people want to get tickets to the show, how do they do that?
So we'll have
For the
a
Halloween show.
There's going to be a ticket, a link. You got to buy a ticket. It's a ticketed event. You get, like I said, you get the whiskey tasting for samples, and you get to watch the show live. $20.
And $20 will also get you an evening with Cindy Riggs. Will be joining us on the show. She is a psychic and spirit communicator. She can do remote viewing. If she has your address, she can do remote viewing and let you know what's going on at your house in the spirit world.
That's what I'm interested in.
Yeah, the whole
She
the
just did
men who
mine.
stare at goats
Yeah,
thing.
hell
You
yeah.
like that?
CIA loves it. I love it.
Hansberry. She did it with Hansberry's
I
house.
texted her my address, and
Yeah.
she said there were negative energy cloud.
Negative shield.
Yeah.
Negative shield. Yeah.
And, she cleared it for me. Thank
She
God.
did?
Yeah.
Have things changed since she's done that?
Well, she just did it, so I'm going to go home, and my wife's going to.
She did it today?
Yeah, like just now.
Oh, wow.
She's going to be in the best mood ever.
Negative energy coming from your neighbor.
Why do you immediately direct it to your wife?
Well, 'cause what else is there?
Why
Negative
would you
energy.
give it to- Huh?
Negative
Come at you
energy.
with positive energy.
It could
Exactly.
be maybe one of the kids had a bad day.
Could be me. Could be the
could-
dogs.
I would-
You would put money on
I
it.
would
It's
put
me.
bigger money on you.
It could be the dog. I don't trust that guy.
Yeah, dogs could be.
Shifty eyes. Anyway, we'll make sure there's links everywhere, social media. We'll send them around. But it's limited tickets, so once you see that link, go ahead and pick it up. Yeah.
30, 40, 50.
Yeah, we have 40. We'll say 40.
Seats. I don't know.
And
Something.
the link will be in the description, correct?
Yeah.
Yesterday I did the buddy walk for Down syndrome.
How'd that go?
Very well. It was pouring down rain all day yesterday. It was the muddy buddy walk,
Muddy
but,
buddy walk, that's funny.
but it was great. It was great. It was a great turnout despite all the rain. And I say that only because October, as by the time this podcast drops, it will be well into the month of October, is Down Syndrome Awareness Month. So, if you
In October.
in October.
Yes.
In October, yes. Make yourself aware, get involved, and if you ever have the joy and pleasure of meeting a family with and the children, it'll change you forever. It has me for the past 20 years.
That's
So,
a good chance to plug the video series we did for.
the video series that we did for them, which I think is a video series that should be seen more. Didn't get enough exposure. It did not get enough exposure. It was a beautiful series that John so willingly and talently accompanied me on, and we interviewed Down syndrome children and adults. It was some children, but it was some adults who were
5 or 6 episodes.
moving
Very,
on
very
and
interesting,
doing
actually.
amazing things with their lives. So You could check that out.
And we
I
had
think
them on the Buddy Walk people on the Whiskey Business podcast before.
We did. We had Carrie Jones on there. She was a trooper yesterday in all the rain. She's amazing, and it was just a great event.
She runs DeSaco, right?
She runs DeSaco.
And that's where you can find those videos. It's on their website.
Thank you, John. Very good.
I thought I put that in there.
That's great. No, man, I think it's great. You know what? I'm glad you brought it up. No, it's this guy. It's me talking to amazing people, but as far as the quality of the work and this guy,
I did the monkey work.
He did.
the real
He didn't do the monkey work. He did the real work. He put it all together and made it look spectacular.
I know that.
Yeah, he always makes us look better than we should.
Yes.
Yeah, and you make us sound better than we should.
That's right. That's true.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you don't have a negative shield around you.
I know. Not anymore. It's out. It's gone.
It's out.
gone.
And so that's it. Any more business for whiskey business that we need to get to before I move Chip
excited
over
to
to
see
the side
Clark.
and bring my man in?
Excited
Just-
to have him come up.
Yeah, we are your favorite whiskey business your podcast with whiskey. Not so much there is one with what about whiskey? Wait, what is it? How does
Podcast not so much about whiskey
as it is one with whiskey?
Right,
That's
right,
how
right.
it is.
It's only 7 years old.
Yeah.
I'll get it one of these days. Thanks for subscribing on your favorite podcasting app, Instagram, Facebook. Go ahead and find us on Whiskey Business with Dino Trombitas on YouTube. Mm-hmm. You can go ahead and smash that subscribe button, hit that bell button. You'll get a notification. And we are part of the Evergreen Network.
Evergreen Podcast now.
That's right.
Okay. Well done.
Wow.
And there he is. There's the man, the myth,
Yeah.
the legend, as they say. Clark Donley, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much.
Clark Donley. How many years? 94? Is that when I met you, or did I know you before 94? Did we cross paths before that? I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so. I think my first initiation into the Clark Donley world was when I started at Sunny 95, and maybe when I would come in to hang out as a
I think
comedian.
that maybe pushes it back to 93.
Yeah,
So I would put it as far back as 93.
93. Well,
It was a different time, America.
it was a different
Bill
time.
Clinton
in
was in the
America.
White House. The Fresh Prince was in Bel Air. That goes way back.
That's fun.
That was a more innocent time.
It was a more innocent time, and it was a different time, and it's amazing how much life has changed. And yet, what you do, you manage to do it consistently and with excellence. And you've got your Amber Alert shirt on. We're going to talk about that too as
good,
well,
okay.
because you were hugely responsible with that program as well. We'll talk about what you've done, where you're going, and what you're still doing, because that. If those of you who are just listening say, man, that guy's got a great voice, it will not be blowing into the wind.
He's putting it to good use,
He's
yeah.
putting it to good use in a new podcast called Off the Record with Jesse Hemmelgarn.
Hemmelgarn.
Hemmelgarn?
Hemmelgarn. Miss H, as her
Miss H,
students
yeah.
used to call her.
And retired FBI, Harry Trombitas, who's just amazing and has had a spectacular career as
Yeah.
well. We'll talk more about that and what that's all about here in just a little bit. But first of all, I wanted you on the podcast because you're pulling up Columbus roots and moving on, friend.
Yeah, 40 years we've been here.
40 years.
Moved here in 1984 when the kids were just tiny little toddlers, and now they have. My oldest has a sophomore in college.
Wow.
It's a lot can happen in 40 years. Put down a lot of roots here. This is my hometown, even though I was about 30 when I got here. This is my hometown. Always will be. Nothing's ever going to change that. But we are going to move to a location a little farther east, Richmond, Virginia. My life partner wants to be a little closer to her grandkids, who
I
are
love
still
Richmond.
very
It's a nice
young.
town.
Richmond's a nice town. From what I've seen, it's a nice town. Yeah. So we'll be closer to her grandkids so that she can spend her retirement being super grandma. And I can visit my grandkids and stuff the way I have been all along.
It's for someone who I've known as a planner and someone who's pretty methodical in life. And you there's a method to your madness.
Oh, okay. I was going to say.
There's a method to your madness. There's madness, but it's a methodical madness. I mean, you like to plan. You like to know.
I
things
do. To a fault.
To a fault. So this was kind of like one day what are we gonna do next in Columbus? To like shit, we're going to Virginia.
That was exactly the way it transpired in those very words. It's like you were a fly on the wall. We talked about it about a year ago. Actually, we started talking about it because Richmond's a great town. It's, a little less than 2 hours from the grandkids by train. It's a lot like Columbus, only smaller. It's got a little southern twang to it. She's got a son who lives there. What do you think? And I'm thinking, if I have to leave Columbus, Richmond is as good a place as any. So she got something on her phone. Hey, take a look at this house. And she said, well, should we just go this weekend? And just take a look at this house, and maybe this guy will have a couple others he can show us, and this,
Sounds
that,
like a
and the other
setup.
thing. And then 72 hours later, oh shit, I'm moving to Richmond. Wow.
It was a setup. It was a setup.
But but that's kind of cool and kind of freeing. I mean, at this point in our lives, we're in our 60s. I'm 65. You're going to be 60.
I'm going to be 67.
67 in January. Yeah.
There's a fine line between planning and procrastinating.
Right.
You can plan long enough to do something and never do it.
Right.
Which means I would still be in Columbus, 10, 20 years from now.
Methodically planning.
To do something with my life,
Right.
with my retirement years. But in the meantime, I think I'm going to watch another Three's Company rerun.
Yeah, exactly.
But now you'll be watching them in Richmond, Virginia.
Exactly.
And it's
with a southern flair.
That's kind of exciting. It almost ignites a little
Well-
spark of newness into a life that you thought was kind of like, now I'm just gonna sit back in the recliner. Well, it's you're sitting back in the recliner, but it's in a different space, and that just the blinders are off. You've got new adventures ahead of you. You mentioned the train. I'm so jealous. You'll get to ride the train.
Is it
You should
Amtrak?
get a
The Amtrak?
Yeah.
You should get a train in
The
Columbus.
only place in America where train travel works is the I-95 corridor. And I'm about 3 miles from the little train station in downtown Ashland, Virginia, known as the Railroad City. Hop on that bad boy about 8 in the morning. By 10, you're getting off at Union Station in Washington, D.C., and I'll be like, Mary Tyler Moore. I'll go down to the Lincoln Memorial, and I'll twirl in the air and throw my hat.
That's awesome. I mean, it's awesome. I'm so jealous of this. A friend of a friend just came up from Texas this past weekend, and he took the train from Texas to Chicago, 24-hour trip, but he said it was great. The dining car, the comfortable seat, and so forth, and the bar. I mean, it was
Yeah, when I went to Maine, I took the nor'easter from
yeah.
Boston
You sent us a picture.
up to Wells, Maine, and it was like 2 hours well spent.
Yeah.
$34. It was amazing.
You have a dining car.
Yes, we do.
Not a tray that folds down in front of you and spills your peanuts all over your lap.
Right.
It was sweet. It was nice.
Yeah. No, I'm looking forward to that. Richmond is a good, I want to say weather town, if that makes any sense. It's got 4 seasons. It just doesn't have so much the worst of some of them.
Gotcha.
Winter is mild and short. Fall and spring are long and beautiful. Summer's hot. But
that's
I
good,
can but you're 2 hours from the mountains.
Right.
A place like Charlottesville or Harrisonburg. You're 2 hours from Virginia Beach and the Pacific Ocean, 3 hours from the Outer Banks. So bring on the heat.
Yeah, you're right there.
Yeah, you're right there.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed I didn't get the front row seats to my first hurricane, but it's early
That's
yet.
okay.
You got plenty of
You
time.
got time. Trust
Maybe
me.
next year.
I
I
talked
certainly
to my,
wouldn't want a Helene to come through.
I talked to my sister. That's the most nervous my sister's been, and she's been through some big ones.
No, this
one was concerning for
This
her.
is nasty. This is
and-
nasty.
But now you're also moving to the state. We were debating the slogan, "Virginia's for lovers." Isn't that the slogan? Is the slogan
That
for
is the
Virginia?
old
The old slogan.
from the 70s, yes,
Yeah, it's
Virginia,
not the
and
new
they
thing.
still use it. I mean,
They
they still
use
say
it.
it on T-shirts.
What's the slogan now? Virginia. Come here when you're done with Columbus.
That's right. Right.
We used to be for
Yeah.
lovers.
Virginia, you can't afford to live here.
Yeah,
Too close to D.C. That's why we're in Richmond. Because if we wanted to live in D.C., we found that if you were trying, right outside D.C., metro area, Arlington, whatever, forget about it.
Right.
Okay. We saw, Fredericksburg. What a darling little town. They had a big Civil War battle there. We'll love it. We'll love it. Oh, no.
no.
Totally expensive. Totally crazy. So, all right. Well, let's go on down to Richmond. And sure enough, Richmond is just catching on now. So, because with COVID and the changes in the way we've all done work, and the exploding real estate prices, people have had to move farther away from places like D.C. if they work there. Because they can work remotely, they can take the train.
If they need to.
Yeah, but they don't have to spend $800,000 on a 1,000-square-foot townhome.
Man.
Right.
And yes, I do know someone who's done that.
Yeah. No.
That's why I say it.
Okay, that's why you know.
Yeah, that's real estate prices in D.C.
That's
I hear ya.
crazy. Yeah.
My sister's in Reston, Virginia, and that's basically a suburb of DC.
Can't afford to live there.
And yeah,
Can't afford to live there?
Nope.
No, I mean, when back in the day when we were entertaining a radio job in D.C., just that was rude. That was a rude awakening back then.
Yeah.
How expensive it was to live in D.C. and what they were offering. Like, I can't afford that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's kind of funny because Harry Trombitas, our retired FBI special agent, references that when he talks about his memoirs in his early years in the FBI. When he was joining the FBI in the late 70s, early 80s, nobody wanted to go to New York.
it was too
Because
expensive.
And at that time, you got paid the same to work in New York as you did in Columbus or Omaha. Mm-hmm. So they didn't want to go. Like, don't send me to New York on an FBI agent's salary.
Right.
Where am I going to live? Well, you live about 2 hours away.
2 hours away. Not to mention New York in the 70s and 80s.
Well,
It was seedy.
yeah, but he was with the FBI, so he was armed.
He was.
He was busy.
Yeah.
I'm going to backtrack because that's a nice, comfortable segue into, you mentioned Harry. So let's talk about the fact that you are continuing to broadcast.
Yes.
If you will. You have joined our world.
I have.
You have joined the podcast world.
I hear all the kids are doing it.
You're not cool unless you have at least one.
At least one.
Off the record with Clark Donley, Jesse Hemmelgarn, and you mentioned Harry Trombitas, who we both know. You know him very well. I've had the pleasure of meeting Harry and talking with Harry, and but talk about a stellar, fascinating career with the FBI. He's pretty much done it all.
He really has, and it's including things that I didn't even know about. And that's one of the reasons that I was intrigued by this, because yes, I've gotten to know Harry through my work in the media, for one thing, because Harry is very media savvy and media friendly, and that was a part of his kind of uniqueness in the Bureau, was his desire to be accessible to the media, to get the media on board and help catch bad guys. Also with the Amber Alert program, he was one of the early people working on that back when it started in 2003, I think. The FBI has a permanent seat on the Ohio Amber Alert Advisory Committee, so he did that for a while till he retired. Now he's a member of the committee as a concerned citizen. But when I retired, the first thing I thought about was, I wonder if Harry would do a podcast, because he's got a book coming out.
Right.
Oh, I was
More
going
on
to ask.
that.
He's
So
got a
keep,
book. Okay.
when you listen to the podcast, we will get to talking about that when things happen, because right now, I believe the FBI is still vetting it, and they have to sign off on it. And,
Sign off on
you
things.
know,
Sure,
get a publisher and an editor and do all
It's
the
going to
stuff.
all be blacked out,
Yeah.
Well,
like
see,
in the movies.
when that happens, whenever they black out, that's when he slightly changes things and turns it into fiction.
Yeah.
There
Exactly.
you go.
He worked for Frederick Forsyth. Why not?
Exactly. Why
Clark
not?
Donley.
It turns it into fiction.
Yeah.
Hey, I still have his fiction work upstairs in my office.
Exactly where?
Up to where exactly?
Yeah.
Which
And you have a message.
which drawer? I'm gonna. I might. That thing might accidentally catch fire before I leave tonight.
No. You're too harsh on yourself. I mean, it's just looking back at it, I came across it and I'm like, oh, you could write this even better now. But even then,
for a lot of
even
reasons.
then though, it still had, you know. So I look at stuff that I wrote back when you were writing that too, and like, oh God,
Yeah.
this is. But you know, there's a seed there. I hope you're going to continue to do that.
I hope I am too, because that's something I've always wanted to do. Always wanted to be down deep a writer, but that felt like running a marathon. It's like, I always wanted to run a marathon. Oh, okay, I did it. Never gonna do it again. Not gonna do it again. So I don't know. I have a lot of ideas, but they never get past page 5. So we'll see. Now I have all kinds of time, and I'm going to be very bored.
That's
Yeah.
unusual. That's not unusual, actually. actually. I've got many scripts. that
Many
are 5
scripts,
pages
yeah.
long.
So maybe go the short story route. So
Right.
start do a short thing.
I'm thinking about greeting cards.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Boy, okay.
Yeah,
Those
see?
are greeting cards I
That's
would
real
definitely
short.
want to read coming
Yeah.
from your cynical bastard self. I would love to see what type of magic you would work.
Sorry for your loss type cards.
Yeah. Sorry, not sorry.
Sorry.
Sorry, not sorry for your loss. The guy was a creep. You're better off without him.
Stuff happens.
Yeah. That's right.
So how many podcasts in the can?
As of this recording,
Because I listened to the first one,
okay.
which was about 9/11, which I thought was a great way to kick it off because it was so close to the date.
and that's why we went ahead and dropped that one on that date.
Yeah.
I'm just not gonna be able to remember how many
That's
we've
okay.
actually recorded. But as of this recording, I want to say we've done 5 or 6.
I know the second one's out. I haven't had a chance to
Yeah.
listen to the second one yet, but the first one I thought was interesting because I was, to hear Harry's perspective
Yeah.
on you mentioned in that particular podcast where we were, and you mentioned I was on vacation, but I came in because I hadn't left yet, and Stacy was gone, but you were at the helm at 9/11 with whoever our producer was at the time. Was it Mike Elliott?
Golly,
I can't
You know
remember.
what? I think our regular producer was on vacation, so I think it was Steve Kelly was
Oh,
co-hosting
wow,
and
wow,
producing
wow,
that
wow,
day.
wow.
It was the C team.
Not
It
the
was
C
like
team. No.
It was like
No.
all the starters and the backups were out.
No.
The 2 deep was only a 1 deep.
When it came to the news, which was
I
the,
wouldn't
which,
want
which
anybody
was
else
what
on
that
board,
broadcast
that's right.
was about for the next 48 hours, and when it came to the news, there couldn't have been anybody better
Well,
at the helm.
That is sweet of you to say.
Not sweet, it's the truth.
I have had people say that they did listen, and that
It's the truth.
I was kind of a calming influence on them during a day that it's
And
hard to describe to anyone if you weren't there. It's like Pearl Harbor or JFK or those of us who remember Abraham Lincoln, God rest his soul. If you weren't there, you just don't get it.
It wasn't. I say it's when Laughing Boy was hired to come to Sunday Night 5 and be funny and charming and cute. That day was the day I put on my big boy radio pants for the next 24 to 48 hours because I came in later that morning with you, and then we stayed around. And the next morning it was more the same. There was no music.
Nope.
It was just you, as you mentioned, doing what you could to get the updates because we didn't have these.
Did not
We didn't have
Yeah,
these
you-
23 years ago.
Cell phones. I would keep going.
I mean, we had them.
What was missing that day? Oh yeah,
We had
the
'em.
internet.
Just to have the antenna.
I was
the antenna. I remember trying to call my daughter and I couldn't get through because
Right. All the cell towers were down.
we're down. Yeah.
If they either by accident or on purpose.
Right.
And the Associated Press ticker was working pretty much as it had in 1929, or when the Hindenburg crashed. It was, printing out one story at a time when they got it. And it was very difficult to get information that was reliable and anywhere close to realistic in a situation that was literally unfolding before your eyes because the one thing they did have was live TV coverage from multiple networks for all of us to sit and watch. It was just a national trauma.
And then to hear the FBI's take on it, to hear where Harry was, because Harry was, ironically enough, because your second episode is about a kidnapping on your podcast.
Well, I'll get into that with you, Mr. Trombitas, in just a few moments.
And but he was
At
working.
11.
He was actually during 9/11. He was investigating another case.
Right.
And walks out much like I woke up that morning to turn on the TV.
Yeah.
And someone said turn on TV and you're not going to believe what just happened in New York. I'm like, what? I was on my way to Vegas. It did not.
Didn't go.
Didn't
Not
get
go to
there.
Vegas. Did not get there.
Plane don't go there
and
anymore.
Harry's same way, coming out of a cell and look what's on TV, what's going on.
Yeah, your day just changed dramatically.
Dramatically.
Right, because one of the flight 93 was headed for Cleveland and got rerouted. Well, it got hijacked and turned around. And, so that episode, that event came much closer to Ohio than people realized.
I didn't realize that.
93 could have landed, could have crashed in a field in Ohio just as easily as it did in Pennsylvania.
Well, how many people were from Ohio, on that flight?
Yeah, going home.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is kind of fitting because I just got a text alert. And since we're here and we're talking about breaking news, I have some breaking news that's kind of a bummer, but I think we should bring it all up and break the news to everybody right now.
We'll be breaking.
Oh,
man.
no.
What?
Baseball legend Pete Rose has passed away.
Oh, Chris Christopherson and Pete Rose.
There's the third
Here's
one.
the third one.
Oh, man.
Wow. Now, I will. You talked about how old I am.
Mm-hmm.
But my only memory of a NASCAR race is when my dad took me to Michigan International Speedway to see a race. But on that day, I had to have my radio tuned to WDLW out of Cincinnati.
The big one.
Because Pete Rose had a hearing in his court case involving his gambling. And Pete Rose, I covered a lot of Pete Rose back in the day when I was a sports guy at Channel 6. So sorry to see him go. I can always flash back on Billy Joel's line. Rose, he knows he's such a credit to the game, but the Yankees grab the headlines every time.
Every time. Well,
Now, he wrote that before the gambling scandal.
so now posthumously, now they'll put him in the Hall of Fame, but now while he's alive,
Yeah.
now he's alive, still one of the greatest baseball players of all freaking time.
Didn't he have a TV show with his wife for a while? Remember that? It was like a reality show. That was a train wreck.
mean,
They were
he-
hawking or carpeting down in the town system.
Wow, man. Chris Christopherson, Pete Rose, and who was the first one?
The woman.
James Duty
Oh,
Dench.
geez.
not Dame.
Yeah, Dame Judi Dench.
Maggie Smith.
They're the same person. It's the same person.
Just
They're the same person.
not the same person.
Dame.
Well, now she
Dame
better,
Maggie
she better
Smith.
watch her ass.
Yeah.
Dame Maggie Smith.
Professor McGonagall is going to come back and
Yeah.
put a cretaceous curse on your ass.
The NBA basketball player passed away as well.
The Kembe Mutombo.
Oh,
Yeah.
Mutombo, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
No.
That guy.
He died.
Man.
He died yesterday or today. Today?
Yeah.
Here, so maybe today.
58 years of age, folks. It's because nature didn't intend people to be that tall.
Yeah, 50 brain cancer is what I read.
Oh, that's too bad.
Brain cancer. 58.
what a
It
great-
made me think. Probably makes you. Every time I see somebody that dies at
Younger
58,
than you
and
are.
then when I see somebody like Pete Rose who dies at 83, and then I start looking at my math. I'm 65, and shit, Donnelly, we got to start living, dude. We got the clock's ticking on us.
I know.
These next 20 years, God willing.
Even if I'm working on Maggie Smith time, I've only got like 30 years.
Right?
Dame Maggie Smith.
And I'm not even a Sir Clark yet.
I mean, yeah. I mean, realistically, when I think about what we've done in life, how we've lived our lives, and so forth and so on. First of all, anybody that bet the under on me, I'm sorry, you lost money.
Yeah.
I'm still paying that one off.
But just say we live to be 85. Just say, let's just throw it out.
Yes,
Sure,
let's
85.
say that.
Let's be positive.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
That's less than 20 years. And look how fast you and I have worked together for 27. And it flew by. How do we stop time, Donnelly? You're the smartest man in the room.
Well-
How do we slow it down?
My recommendation would be work with Dino Trombitas.
Slow time down.
You won't live any longer. It'll just feel that way. Oh God! You hung that one in my wheelhouse, dude. Whack! That fucking ball is still flying.
Oh, there you go. I like to think I kept you young.
Oh, if laughter's the best medicine, then yeah, you did.
We had some good
Oh
times.
gosh, didn't we?
We had some good times in what I like to call our prime.
Your prime.
Our prime years.
Okay,
Yeah.
sure, yeah.
And some of the best times were almost routine.
Right.
It was like we played small ball to continue the baseball reference. Mm-hmm. I mean, we weren't going after, the big laughs. The 3-4 of us
No.
would just banter back and forth, and there was, I think, a naturalness to it that a moment kind of like what we just did, where one of us just sees the opening, and because we have 4 of the fastest guns in the West, somebody's got a smoking revolver in their hand, and somebody else is biting the desk.
Somebody's got a race to the finish line to get there. Whoa, damn it. Okay. Yeah, and off the air. I mean, on the air and off the air.
Absolutely.
We had fun times, fun nights. Oh, gosh, I always say that I've said it before that the 30s was my favorite decade.
Right.
The 40s were okay too, but I got the sunny in my 30s, and man, it was like the last half of the 30s. But I think I crammed 10 years into those 5 before turning 40.
That was back when we were still young enough to pull that off.
Right?
God, and then I went another 10 years. You know, like somebody on a sitcom who just should have quit after season 7.
I can't disagree. I can't disagree, but good times.
Yes, indeed.
Fun times. Amber Alert. The shirt
Yeah,
you're
oh,
wearing.
yeah, thank you.
Let's double back there for a second.
Oh my God!
That's not me.
Must be one
It's
of your
your-
cases.
It's your private investigator line, Dino.
The private phone.
It's the bat
It'll-
phone.
It'll ring. I'm sorry, I was supposed to disconnect it.
It only rings when that one case that you let get away years ago, the one you regret. That's right. That guy has more
waiting-
information.
waiting for the
one
one
you've been
guy,
waiting for.
Okay, it'll keep ringing.
What's
so
the code?
Huh?
What's the code?
Just pick it up and hang it up.
The
They'll call
eagle
again.
has landed.
If it's really important to leave a message, see?
Amber Alert. Yeah. Wait.
He does not have his answering machine hooked up to that anymore.
No, I don't. I don't.
he has an answering machine?
He ran out of cassette tapes.
This is Jim Rockford. This is Jim Rockford machine.
Okay.
It's gonna keep ringing. You can just pick it
I'm
up.
kind of inclined just to see how long it rings.
Yeah.
However many times it rings lets me know how one that it's definitely.
I gave up.
There you go. Okay, it's not that important.
Okay. Yeah. Only 22
Yeah,
rings.
yeah. I told him if it's really important, ring 34 times and then hang up.
Then hang up and call back and let it ring 42 times. By that time, you'll be dead.
But Amber Alert.
Yeah.
You know, Harry has worked on a lot of things in respects to kidnappings
Absolutely.
and missing persons and so forth and so on. And Amber Alert, you were a huge part of this program.
I like to think so. Somebody came
No, you were.
Okay, then. You talked me into it.
Yeah. Take credit, dude.
A former executive director of the Mid-Ohio Regional Planning Commission, Mike Rankin, also a former deputy registrar, not a deputy, the real registrar, called up one day because I had interviewed him for something. He said, I heard about this thing in Texas called the Amber Alert. Here's how it works. Do you think we could do it here? And I said, yeah, because I'm smart enough to know a really good idea when it hits me in the head. So he and I started talking to people and asking around. Well, at the same time, on a parallel track, people at the state level with the Attorney General's office, Harry, law enforcement, were doing the same thing. Could this work in Ohio? And so eventually the parallel track started angling toward each other, and we all found ourselves in a big room together at one point. And about that time, there was a movement in the legislature. I think the governor got on board. Let's have an Amber Alert. So a law was passed in Ohio in 2003, creating the Amber Alert Steering Committee. About that time, there were some really highly publicized cases in other states. Up until then, the Amber Alert was very rare, and people didn't know what it meant. But these cases made it a household word almost literally overnight. So it got very easy from then on for us to bring the Amber Alert to people in Ohio. Since then, it's been keeping up on technology, adding resources and that kind of thing to how an Amber Alert is disseminated. Originally, it was using the old emergency alert system, the old emergency broadcast system for radio and television stations to break into programming and tell you there was an Amber Alert. Again, this is 2003. You know, we really don't have smartphones. We have dumb phones that just didn't have a wire.
Right.
Very little in the way of internet, very little in the way of email. Since then, we've added the highway traffic signs, which you see all the time because we use them for missing adults. And we've added the wireless emergency alert, which you'll get on your cell phone in the middle of the night if you don't disable it or restrict its hours.
Those will wake you up.
They use those for tornado warnings as well. And it's just come a long way. So a lot of what we do now on the Amber Alert Advisory Committee is to kind of make sure all that technology is working the way it's supposed to. And if it didn't, why didn't it? And it's kind of take on, I don't want to say a life of its own. It's just becomes now ingrained. You know, I think there's a TV movie called Amber Alert. There is an endangered missing children's alert so that they can do almost the same thing, but not in the case of an abduction.
Right.
There's an endangered missing adult alert for people who go missing. A lot of times, those people suffer from Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia or some other form of an ailment that leaves them unable to find their way back home in cold weather. We've heard stories of them going to the mall and being found beside a creek in another state.
Yeah. Wow.
And so we have that, and we have the blue alert, which is when a law enforcement officer has been injured or killed, and the suspect remains at large. Those are very rare.
Yeah.
I have
But,
a question. So the advent of smartphones, how's that impacted recovery of people that have been kidnapped?
I think it's. I want to say it's helped because I don't have any statistics
Okay.
to say. Okay, let's call this the advent of the smartphone.
Sure.
It's
'Cause everybody's got one. So.
Yeah, it's allowed the dissemination of that information to come out much more quickly to people who have it right in their hands. You're not relying on television and radio stations to do it for you, and just if you happen to be listening. The highway signs don't deliver a great deal of information. They just updated the WIA system, that's the Wireless Emergency Alert, from a very terse Amber Alert in Franklin County, tuned to local media, to I want to say it's like a 90-character message. It's kind of like when Twitter lengthened its now you get, okay, here's an Amber Alert, here's the name of the child, description,
Make and model of the
suspect,
car,
make,
yeah,
model,
right.
right. Direction of travel. You get a lot more information. Well, that puts it right in the palm of your hand if you're at work or at a restaurant. And that's the whole idea, is to put that information in the palms of hands of people who are out and about, going to work, taking the kids to school, going out on a date, and they might see the car. My favorite story continues to be somebody driving along in north of Franklin County and spotted the license plate of a car that an Amber Alert had been issued for. It was a case in Tennessee
that's cool.
where the man had murdered the woman and kidnapped the child, and he was on his way. He had left Tennessee, and I believe his credit card pinged somewhere in southwestern Ohio, so they asked us to issue an Amber Alert. This guy saw the license plate number. He called the cops. He followed the guy until the cops showed up, pulled him over, and arrested him and saved the kid.
Nice.
That, to me, is a picture-perfect Amber Alert.
Yeah.
And it's just great when it works out that way.
I was going to ask how it works nationally. So I guess
That's
you kind
how.
of
That's
answered
how.
it. Yeah.
So you'll stay broadcasting via the podcast in Virginia. Will you still stay involved with Amber Alert while in Virginia, or do you have to be in Ohio to do that?
I don't think I should try to.
What do you mean?
I think I need to step aside and let somebody who's in Ohio take over my role. If they beg me to stay, if they really want me to stay, but I'm pretty sure that something that's been set up by the Ohio legislature wants all Ohioans in it.
Okay.
That's my feeling.
All
That
right.
makes sense. That makes sense.
So
But take some serious pride in
that's why I wear the shirt.
the work involved and the work done, man. Instrumental.
Well, you were talking about, what have we done what have you done with your life? That was the implication. You only got 20 years. Have you made the best of it? Have you made the best of the
you got
20
20 more
that's-
years. Because you're right. You have segued into your own segue. Because I was going to ask about where you started and where you're at and what are your thoughts.
Well, and I heard you talk about the Broadcasters Hall of Fame, of which there is one in which I will never be a member.
Bullshit.
But when I think about it, like, what have you done that changed the world? At all? Even a little tiny infinitesimal, one leg of a centipede's worth. I would point to the Amber Alert and say, at least I recognized a good idea when I heard about it. I did what I could to make it work in Ohio, and it did work. And I call it an accomplishment. And I don't take all the credit. In fact, I try to take as little as possible.
Yeah, you've always been very humble in that respect. And yes, I would say on a major platform that is definitely something you should be proud of.
All right.
That's a takeaway. But on a smaller scale, the people you've impacted over the years,
Let me tell you
as far as being a broadcaster, those little stories, and you know what they are, because sometimes we forget, but they remember, and when they call them back and they remind you, and you go, oh yeah.
Yeah.
maybe it was just something that happened to you that day, but to them, it was something special, something major in their life. So,
Yeah.
yes, Amber Alert, without a doubt.
Well, yeah, and I guess
Something
maybe
to hang
because
your hat on.
and I think it's because maybe it steps out a little bit from
Sure.
I did it because it was my job. I told you about that thing, that bank robbery or that, national championship for the football team. Yeah, that was my job. But Amber Alert was not my job.
Right.
That was something I did. Other than that, I'm just showing up, reading who, what, when, where, why.
Yeah.
Here's the score. And I guess I don't consider all of that much of an accomplishment. One of our old bosses once said to somebody, and I don't know exactly what context, but get Donley to do it. He won't fuck it up.
He won't. Well, there's something to be said for that. He won't fuck it up. Trust me, nobody ever said that to me.
I'm going to have a
Whatever
pillow.
said Dino or Greg after that one.
Yeah, needle pointed with that phrase, because to me that was the highest praise. Is I've been there every day. I've done my job. I did it right, even if I didn't always do it well.
No,
at
you
least
always
I
did it
did it
well.
right. And I think that was the topic of the conversation when I did this podcast back in its salad days, was how the media has changed, and not for the better, in my opinion.
No. I think one of the things that probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is just outside looking in, one of the things that frustrated you in our work together was how they continued to diminish the news and what was in the news and telling you, well, they don't want to hear about this or that or the other thing. How you had to uncomfortably at times compromise on how you did your job.
Yeah.
To me, that's probably one of the most frustrating things about radio in the last 10 years that we did it, how we had to compromise how we did our job. You're talking for 2.5 minutes. You should have it wrapped up in 2 minutes. Your news is 3
It's too
minutes.
long.
It should be
Too long.
90 seconds.
And it should be fun stuff.
Yes.
Not interesting
Nothing
or
bad ever
important
happens
stuff.
in the news.
It should be fun stuff. I can't remember the phrase, or maybe one of you guys knows, but there is a thing in capital letters that has happened in this world, not this country, but the entire world, where people have heard so much misinformation deliberately placed out there in the marketplace of ideas, and then regurgitated by people who know absolutely nothing, thanks to the aforementioned smartphones and the internet.
Right.
That now people literally, and I mean that literally, don't know what to believe.
Right. Let's go with something current. Take Springfield.
Okay.
Right.
Perfect
Oh, yeah.
example.
Perfect example.
Perfect
To
example.
what was real. My daughter, who I love dearly, initially, she's a huge cat lover.
I know.
Okay, so that's all she saw.
Oh dear.
She saw
That's
the
all
cat.
she
Oh,
saw.
no.
She immediately started, texting me about what she believed to be the truth, which wasn't the truth, but it was in the moment, in the moment at that particular time, and that's all she needed to hear was that Haitians were eating cats.
Was she packing up her rescue gear to come
No,
to town
but she
to
was
save some
afraid.
cats?
She was afraid because Springfield was so close, and she
Yeah.
thought that
That
what
they'd
would
eat
happen was
Columbus
the
cats?
dominoes would start to fall, and before you knew it, there'd be somebody knocking at my door wanting to eat my cat because it would spread from Springfield to here and be
That
ready.
cat, that cat is very fat. And
That
looks
cat's
very
very
juicy.
fat. That is
very
very
juicy.
junky.
Strangely, you are fattening up that cat.
But my
It's-
point being, what's
Eating
believed,
the
what's
Gatos
believed to be
pizza.
true, and what's not believed to be true, because when it gets thrown at us so quickly.
And when you hear people say, "Well, you're going to really miss us when we're gone," the only way that the world can function, the way that we have known it to function for the last 200 plus years, since 1776, and we tried this crazy experiment, and a lot of people have been copying us because we're making it work. One of the reasons we make it work is you have sources of information that everybody agrees you can count on.
Right.
And those sources of information are how you find out how your government's working, how other people would like to make your government work, what is happening in Springfield, and how the people who would like to lead your government are approaching that particular event. If you don't have objective sources of reliable information, how can you possibly make a democracy or republic work? You can't.
Right.
And that is why at the point when you and I were shown the door, I was more than ready to leave, because I could tell that as you described the situation, just when you found your canoe being drawn toward the waterfall, your bosses said, throw away your paddle and don't get another one.
Right.
Unless you can dance to a TikTok video.
Yeah.
Yeah, very true.
So
So
there's that's you say that jokingly.
Because it's based on fact.
But it's a fact. You guys need to be dancing.
So who's the
Dancing.
new guy? Who's the new news guy? That
There is no news guy.
They got rid of news.
No, dude, it's they don't need news. They need whatever the hell it is they got going on right now. I'm not saying anything disparaging. I'm just saying that I'm not impressed, and I think I'm allowed to say that, and that's not
an opinion.
disparaging. It's an opinion.
Well, who do you trust, Clark? In the news?
Well, not you.
Who do you trust?
I know what you're angling for.
Yeah.
Walter Cronkite.
Yeah.
No, I don't go back that far. I will admit to being something of a traditionalist, because I do trust. I do trust the three major networks. I do trust CNN. I trust Fox because I know when they're screwing with me.
Okay,
That's the thing.
It's the bullshit
Yeah.
season.
I trust
Yeah.
Fox with a caveat.
Okay, you know what? That's pizza. But when I bite into it and I taste a fucking anchovy, I am going to tell everybody. And that's what Fox is. Yeah, it's a pizza, but you're going to taste an anchovy
know
if you're
it's
not
anchovies.
careful. So be ready.
Hawaiian.
Right? Yeah, there might be pineapple on that pizza.
Well, I give you credit for actually being,
But
having
you
objectivity and watching them all to see
Because
the different perspectives.
At this
'Cause I do
point,
that.
you cannot be well informed without trying something from the salad bar.
Right.
You know, and back in the day when there were the three networks and the New York Times, and the Los Angeles Times, Time and Newsweek, and the Washington Post. You look back on those days and you're like,
On those liberal rags.
those people were all singing from the same hymnal. Yeah. Those people who said there was a liberal bias in the media were not entirely wrong. The Wall Street Journal was, a voice out there voicing the conservative point of view, which is why Ronald Reagan and Fox News took off the way they did. People wanted that. And that Fox was there to give it to them.
Yeah.
Roger Ailes was right there. Rupert Murdoch was right there, gave the people what they said they wanted, and they did want it. Unfortunately, they forgot to stop when they went over the truth cliff.
Right.
They put the most chum in the water.
Yeah, but you can't go back and say, well, they should be more like CNN because no, they shouldn't. No. CNN does the same damn thing. Just
on a different way. Just a
yeah,
different
if
level.
you're going to consume news media, consume it wisely. Know that there's probably a point of view and an agenda for everything. Even the Associated Press, the bastion of objectivity in everything it does, I can detect an agenda at work, and sometimes they slip over the edge of analysis and perspective and into opinion. Just a little bit. Just to put a little toe over the line.
Okay.
But enough that I read Associated Press material from the source, but with a knowledge that, they also have a point of view. They are going to give you a perspective. So be ready for when that perspective slips into opinion.
I know this much, and this is a compliment to you. I know that whenever you would distill whatever you presented on any given morning, I know that our listeners, if Clark Donley said it, then that's good enough for me.
Yeah.
That's all you can hope for.
And I don't know if that's a voice of authority. I don't know if that's a voice of
Just a good voice, deep voice. I think a deep
a
voice.
of authority,
I believe
or-
anything that comes
or
from
a respected
those
voice.
pipes.
Like he's never steered us wrong before. Let's go all the way back to 9/11. where Clark Donley let me know what was going on every step of the way. So if he let me know what was going on every step of the way when the nation was facing one of the most tragic days of its history, why wouldn't he be able to set me straight on what's going on in D.C. as we speak?
And that's, you answered the question that you asked a minute ago, is who do you trust? You trust the person who's never let you down. Mm-hmm. And I will say there are a lot of people in the media, on CNN and Fox and the three major networks, and in the New York Times and in the LA Times and in the Washington Post, that have never let me down.
So
I will go back to them. But again, I will take full advantage of the all-you-can-eat salad bar. I will take from multiple sources and see which ones. If you do the Haitian cat story, or the story of Donald Trump calling on the police to enjoy one day of violence, and that would solve all crime. Look at where those stories are coming
That's
from.
a movie, I think.
Yeah, The Purge.
It is The Purge, yes. But
did he really say he wanted to do that?
According to some media sources that I do not think are entirely worth taking at their word. It's like, show me the videotape.
Yeah.
Make sure it's not AI, as if they needed that just now.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Sounds like MSNBC.
So let me. I'm not being rude.
When they're showing Shark Tank right
because this
after.
actually leads into my next question. If you had to go on the air tomorrow and talk about Pete Rose, what would you say? What would that consist of? What would your audience think Clark Donley would have to say about Pete Rose? Would you, because they, I love, well, I don't want, I'm sidelining here. When everybody was calling for Biden to get out and so forth and so on, everybody was saying he's this, he's this, he's this, he's that, and it was just all bad. Then as soon as he pulled the trigger and said he was stepping out, all of a sudden they put him back on the pedestal. He's the greatest president that's ever existed.
That was ridiculous.
Ever. And they started and started to bring out all the tributes, and wonderfully so, because the man has had a stellar career. But my point is, man, they loved it. Yeah, Pete Rose will never get in the Hall of Fame
Now
because
it's
he was
all
a
gonna be
degenerate gambler.
yeah.
Well, now tomorrow, if you had to report on the news about the demise of Pete Rose, how would you go about it?
Pete Rose, legendary infielder for the Cincinnati Reds and their Big Red Machine of the 1970s, who was the personification of the hard-working athlete.
Charlie Hustle.
Blue-collar baseball player.
But whose accomplishments were overshadowed by a gambling scandal, has died at the age of 83.
That's
Pretty
right
simple.
there. Boom.
Straight to it.
I mean, that's, I could go on, but that's the way I think of Pete Rose. He was the personification of Charlie Hustle. Rose, he knows he's such a credit to the game because he was. Yeah. But then, damn it, Pete, you got caught gambling on baseball.
You see the documentary on Netflix about him?
No.
Yeah, it was great. It was great.
How old is it?
It's like 5 months old.
Oh, I should.
Wow.
I'll have to check it out.
Everybody's going to be streaming that.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
kidding.
yeah, for sure. But that's the way you got to report on things like that. People don't have even lives. There are very few Jimmy Carters in this world.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Where
In hospice.
you just pile accomplishment and upon accomplishment. Everybody stumbles now and then. Some people never recover from their stumble. Some people do nothing but stumble. And occasionally manage to stumble and then stand up with a gem of an accomplishment, stuck in their teeth. But most people are like Pete Rose on a smaller scale.
Right.
You did great. Oh, you fucked up.
Yeah, but
And
part of his problem.
People will always remember the last thing
his
you
problem.
did.
Was his problem?
Well, because he didn't say he did it right away. He could probably be considered for the Hall of Fame today if it wasn't the way he treated the situation when it first came out.
Oh, you're saying
And
he handled it-
25 years later.
in hindsight, he handled it badly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he denied.
Yeah, that's as we
Oh, it was
found.
easier to do. It was easier to deny back then.
I know, right?
Yeah,
There was a good chance you could get away with it back then.
yeah, but when they catch you,
Oh yeah.
the price is very high.
Right. Contrition was an issue for him.
No, you're right. How you handle a scandal is usually, this is a cliche, bigger than the scandal.
Oh yeah.
And that's the
cover-up
Watergate
is
lesson.
worse, right?
Yeah, the cover up is always worse than the deed. Let there be a lesson to all you young men.
Nixon learned that hard.
Those are wise words. That's your takeaway, boys. That's right. Got it. The cover up is always worse.
Excellent.
They'll be like Nixon or
Taking
Pete
notes.
I'll always remember that.
So as we start to wrap up, Clark Donley, could you name a highlight and a low light?
Oh,
And you can start with either one you want over the course of your career. Now that includes also the fact that you did sports on television. Let's not forget that. I let that one slide. But
Yeah.
a lot of people still revere you from those days when you
Yeah.
did sports because you were damn good at that too. So when you look over the course of your career, whenever it started, when did it start, by the way?
President's Day 1979.
Wow.
That was my first full-time professional job.
Wow.
In what market?
St. Ignace, Michigan.
Michigan. Okay.
Yeah. It's five-
Doing news?
No, morning disc jockey.
Whoa.
I was a disc jockey for a few years.
Drive time.
So, but,
Okay. So over the course of how many years in broadcasting?
So 40,
79.
45 is how I do the
45.
math, right?
And maybe not a fair question, but if you had to pick, and you can pick more than one,
46.
but if you had to pick highlights and lowlights over the course of 40 years, because there's both, and let's take the firing out of it, because that's just nature of the beast. And
Yeah, that isn't even. That's neither one.
Yeah,
I know,
I mean,
right?
it really isn't. I mean, but it's very difficult. I mean,
You
the
actually
quick.
did us a favor.
I know. I was like, could it be a highlight?
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Are you sure you want to take that out of the equation? Because that might have been the best day of my whole career. The glib answer would be 9/11 because it was both. It was, I thought, just an unusual day to be doing my job at that time, but also so traumatic that I will never get over it completely and don't ever want that sort of thing to happen again.
So that gave you the taste of what it was like in the newsroom when Kennedy got shot. 'Cause that
You know
was
what?
huge too, right?
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you this. All respect to Walter Cronkite and all those people, in the black and white skinny ties.
Yeah.
That was on 9/11.
Right.
I'm sorry.
But there's nothing
I'm
else
sorry.
close
It was a traumatic day in our nation's history, but watch those goddamn towers fall, and 3,000 Americans are dead, more than any other single day in American history.
You know what else is absolutely horrible about 9/11 is that every year, because of technology, because of YouTube, we relive it. Our brains, our psychology relives it by seeing the video of it again. We know it happened years, it's the anniversary, but you see it again repetitively, and that's a psychological effect that you can have on your brain.
And in
if you're
that
not careful.
first episode of that podcast, Harry mentions the legacy of 9/11, that even to this day, every year, a certain number of FBI agents die. A certain number. We lose, I can't remember what the number is. They mentioned it on the anniversary most recently. How many people die every year from diseases they have come down with because they were at ground zero for
Right.
weeks
Right.
and weeks.
Cancers and emphysemas.
So,
and
and then you have the psychological, emotional trauma that you're right. We do relive it every year on September 11th. And it's both good and bad. You want to remember, you don't want to forget, but I'm not sure how much good that does us as individuals.
I don't know either.
Those of us who were alive and Greg's age, you were young. Jessie Himmelgarn, our producer, she was young. She remembers it as a youth, as a high school student, but we remember it as full-grown, mature adults, and I think it takes a different toll. So I'll tell you this: the highlight of my career was doing high school football play-by-play on the radio.
There you go.
Holy shit!
can say shit.
If I had found that 30 years earlier, my life would be completely different. What a rush!
That's great. That's
I
a great highlight.
loved it.
That was later in your career?
Yeah, we
Oh,
did
wow.
a couple of seasons on Sunny, and I did a couple of games for some other, station, and then it was gone. I only did about 5 or 6. But
Bummer.
oh, this is awesome! I love this. This is great. Let's do that again next week.
You were doing play-by-play,
Yeah.
or were you doing the color?
No, I was doing play-by-play.
Play-by-play.
Yeah.
Was there somebody else doing color?
Yeah.
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 Okay, all right.
High school kid next to him.
Right, yeah. The janitor.
What do you think about that, Mel?
Well, tell you what, that kid puked in the boys' room on Thursday. What a cleanup that was.
Oh, jeez.
Did you feel like Harry Carey or something doing this?
No, I just felt like this is
It's pure.
really cool.
It's pure. It's
Tangentially, there's
the
something
moment,
you can train yourself to do very easily when you do voiceover work on camera, and that is it's called an ear prompter.
Yes.
You read your script to yourself and you listen to it on tape with a little earbud, and you repeat after yourself. Well, I was doing public address hockey at Ohio State, and the person who's in charge upstairs in the booth said, "I need you to say something." I said, "Okay, tell me what you want me to say." And she said it, and it came out my mouth and out the speakers like simultaneously.
Yeah.
And right in the middle, some cameraman or lights guy goes, "Oh my God, that was amazing." And that's how it felt to do play-by-play. You're watching, your eyes are telling your brain what's happening, and your brain is telling your mouth what's happening, but your mouth is making different words come out and mixing them all up and making them interesting. So
Yeah.
as fast as you can.
It's fun.
Yeah, that's fun. That
Well,
was fun.
and the fact that to have that happen at a certain point later in life, where like all of a sudden you're filled up with joy all over
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
This is what I do for a living, and I've never done this, and this is awesome. Why wasn't I doing this 20 years ago? But you did get to discover it now. So that is my hope for you as you move away from us from Columbus, Ohio, and go to Richmond, Virginia. I'm hoping, my friend, that you find something new, something cool, whether it's writing a short story or getting past those first 5 pages of the novel, whatever the case might be, or getting involved in someone in Virginia is going to hear him speak. Like, have you ever done radio?
No.
Why don't you join my church? I need you to read.
You're
do
scaring me.
audio for churches?
I'm excited. I'm excited to hear what the updates will be. I think you and I personally have talked about the last chapters
Yeah.
in life.
Yeah.
And I got a good feeling that your chapters are going to be pretty cool.
Well, I think this is not, you and I know books that are not just divided into chapters, but into parts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this is a new part, but it's not the last chapter.
Exactly.
Not by a long shot. I don't know what's around the corner. That's some of the fun. Is I don't know what things are going to be like. Here's one very vivid thing that I see: playing banjo in the park with the case open, just sitting there strumming, practicing.
You're gonna go busking?
I might.
Yeah,
Why not?
Couple of dollar bills here and there.
Yeah, I'll get a license from the city of Ashland or something. And
Hell
who's to
yeah.
stop me? Maybe they'll pay me to stop.
Go to a cafe. Try to find a good cafe too. That's what I recommend. And tell
man.
him where it is so I
All
can
right,
look it up.
let's make some sort of. This is one thing. It stays now. I have this. This is the reason I put my mom on the podcast, so I could always have it forever and a day.
Okay.
Kind of the reason I asked you to come on here, because now I have this forever and a day. So now we make a commitment in audio and video.
Okay.
We'll stay in touch,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
We will stay in touch. We will share each other's discoveries.
Yes.
And achievements and new adventures as we continue on.
Come visit us in Richmond. We've got a hot tub.
Oh,
And a
hot
saltwater
tub.
pool. A
Yeah.
saltwater pool. I want to come. And do a little floating.
Saltwater? Oh, that's
Saltwater pool?
Hell yeah. He's moving to Virginia for a hot tub.
Who knew I was so cheap?
that was part of the deal, right?
Right. You could have had me, Utah, but fuck you.
And on that note, our guest has been the incomparable Clark Donley.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Good luck with the podcast.
Thanks.
Good luck to Jesse. Tell Harry hi and continued success on that. I know it's in its infancy.
Yeah.
But it sounds great. I've heard the first episode. I'm
Good.
looking forward to the second one.
Find
The
us.
second one is out as we speak. The podcast is off the record. available wherever you get your favorite podcast. It's out there.
What's the subtitle? Off the record, an
FBI agent's perspective, and yeah,
plug
it
that
is,
in because it's easier to
available
find.
on Spotify and Apple, all your
YouTube.
favorite
Yes, because-
platforms, and on YouTube.
We'll
Yeah,
put the link
that's
in
good
the
that you
description.
added that because you're suffering the same dilemma that we do with whiskey. There's like a ton of whiskey businesses, and there's like a ton of off the record podcasts.
Yeah.
So you have to be a little more specific.
The
Yeah,
thing
you have to
about
search
this-
Whiskey Business with Dino Trombitas.
Yeah.
That's what you got to search.
And why we call it that is because when you listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, you get a bunch of amateurs sitting around.
That's
like
what I was going to
us,
say. There's a lot of people
talking
bullshitting
about
it.
talking about crime and everything they've seen here and read there and Googled here and Googled there. This guy will take you to the crime scene.
Right.
He was there, right?
He will take you inside the interrogation room. He'll take you inside the surveillance van while the bagmen are inside bugging the social club where there's a guy upstairs who buries his victims in more than one grave.
Nice.
You will meet serial killers face to face, close up.
Wow.
You will meet bank robbers who are awesome. You will find out what you do when your key witness is jogging naked in his prison cell on the eve of a trial.
All right.
Not everybody gets to do that.
I know
So-
what I do.
You'll check out the podcast and you'll find out.
That's a hell of a tease.
I'm hooked.
I'm there,
Continued
man.
success, brother.
Thank you, and you
And,
too.
and I'm gonna miss you. I'm gonna miss the fact that you're only a phone call away. And let's go to coaches. I'm gonna miss that, even though we didn't do it enough here in the recent years because we're older. But the case, but I'm excited for you.
Well, when your bourbon comes out, I want a gift bottle, and then we'll do a little
idea.
Zoom call or something.
Yeah.
And,
Maybe by then we'll have trains here in Columbus, and I can take the train to Virginia.
maybe by then they'll be selling liquor in grocery stores in Virginia.
Oh, that's right. They don't do that down there.
That's your calling. That's your calling. That's your Amber Alert.
That's right. We're on Amber Alert to Ohio. I'm
my
going to
gosh.
bring cheap, available liquor to Virginia.
Don't forget our Halloween show with a live audience on October the 16th at Echo Spirits. Go to whiskeybusinesspod.com. Look for the invites where?
On social media,
On
we'll
social
put it.
media.
We'll put it down here in the link
Down here in the
below.
link as well.
And video.
On behalf of Greg Hansberry, John Whitney, Chip Cosell, I'm Dino Trombitas. Until the next bottle, see ya.